Seated in the shadows was a woman named Althea. But Althea wasn't there for the glitz. She gently spoon-fed Lucas, whispering softly in a loving tone, "Open wide." Not long after, an older woman approached the group near Damian, drawing attention from nearly everyone around. She was Celine, one of the major investors in Damian's company. Looking forward to meeting her, Damian's gaze flickered across the ballroom. There, near the wall, was Althea, smiling gently while stroking Lucas. Damian forced a smile and stammered slightly. Althea looked up from her seat just in time. She still held the spoon, but her hand trembled slightly. "Look at her," Celine whispered, discreetly. "She's handling that kid so well." The color drained from Althea's face. The man she loved, the father of her child, had just erased her with a single glance. Althea had arrived early that day, just as she always did. As the sun rose, she was already in the hotel lobby, seated in her favorite corner, sipping coffee while reviewing paperwork. The hotel wasn't grand, but for Althea, it was home. What she wanted was a quiet life, peaceful nights, and honest work. She greeted every guest, always smiling, always respectful, and always ready to help. "Hope to see you again soon," she said, handing over a key card to an elderly man checking out. Althea moved quickly but carefully. That day, a black vehicle pulled up in front of the hotel. Out stepped a tall man in a white linen shirt and black trousers. Althea immediately noticed him. "Don't stare," whispered one of Althea's co-workers, probably a client. Althea smiled and stepped forward. "Reservation under Damian Callahan," he said plainly. Althea froze for a split second at her keyboard. Damian handed over the card without a word, as Althea prepared the key card and wrote his name on the guest slip. The cap of her pen fell. She moved quickly to pick it up, only to find Damian bent at the same time. He didn't smile, but he wasn't cold either. From that day on, everything began to change for Althea. Damian often came down to the lobby, sometimes to the small cafe, other times to receive deliveries. And whenever he did, it was always Althea he spoke to. He never made any special requests, but his eyes were always on her. Althea once asked him during a rainy afternoon, and Damian replied, "A wealthy heir," and Althea, the hotel receptionist. Damian's 5-day stay kept getting extended again and again, and with time, he began to open up to her. "I love your name," Damian said one day. Althea replied, "Said I was born near the mountains, so she named me something that meant strong and peaceful." Damian nodded thoughtfully. "I like you," she smiled. With each passing hour spent together, Althea found herself falling more and more. Not because he was handsome, but because Damian genuinely cared. Whenever a guest lashed out at her, Damian stayed quiet. One evening after her shift, she was resting in the lobby when she heard his voice. Damian was pacing, talking to someone on the phone. "I told you I'm not interested in that merger." "Mom." Althea went still. She knew people from his world wouldn't approve of someone like her, but it hit differently hearing it. "I don't care about the family's image," Damian continued. He did care about her. The call went on, but he said little after that. Finally, he hung up, walked toward her, and looked her directly in the eyes. "You heard?" Althea nodded and looked away. "You were meant to," Damian interrupted. "You apart from my world," he said. Tears welled in Althea's eyes. Just a few days, she had allowed herself to hope. Althea stopped caring about the judgment of others. She no longer worried about how long Damian would stay, or how his family might react. Every shared moment was enough to bring color back into her once quiet, gray world. The days felt brighter. Long shifts at the hotel were replaced with moments filled with quiet joy, even though she was just a receptionist. And Damian came from one of the most powerful families in the country. It didn't stop them from laughing, sharing stories and enjoying quiet moments together. One day, Damian invited her to Napa. "I love you," he whispered. Althea gasped softly. She still couldn't believe a man like Damian had fallen in love with someone like her. In a room lined with oil paintings, antique furniture, and cold silence, sat Damian's proud matriarch, Celine, who wore her disapproval like a second skin. "Damian, I've heard the rumors." A receptionist from a second-rate hotel, Damian stood tall. "It fits," he replied firmly. "I need someone real, and Althea is the one I choose. But remember this, Damian, you won't receive your inheritance until you produce an heir, a child, a grandchild, and everything we've worked for." Damian was stunned. "You will need to keep her hidden from the public eye," she added. Out in the hallway, Althea stood quietly. She had heard everything. For the first time, something caught in her throat. She wasn't sure whether to walk toward him or away. Damian met her in the hall. "You heard all that." Althea nodded, forcing a faint smile. "I won't let them break us," he said, taking her hand. Damian looked straight into her eyes. The couple married quietly in a church in Santa Barbara, where Damian's friend, a priest, officiated the ceremony. Althea wore a simple white dress from a vintage boutique, but to her, it was the happiest day of her life. Each morning began with Damian waking Althea. Althea became pregnant. She slowly sat on the floor, held her belly, and cried not out of fear, but because she was finally carrying their future together. When Damian found out, he knelt in front of her, cradled her belly, and said, "I love you." Celine still refused to acknowledge Althea. She never visited, never asked about Althea, never recognized her as family. Even when the baby was born, Celine coldly reminded them, "Then we'll discuss the inheritance." Althea stayed silent because she loved Damian. The sun burned brightly on the day Damian and Althea moved into the Callahan estate. A mother of a future heir shouldn't stay in a condo. But Althea knew the real reason. She was monitored, controlled, and set aside. "This will be your room, dear," Celine said coldly, showing her a second-floor guest bedroom. It was clear the room was meant for a guest, not a wife. "I can't stay with Damian," she asked. Celine merely glanced at her, offering a hollow smile. "He has work to do. Don't distract him." Althea said nothing. As days passed, the coldness grew. Staff were respectful, but distant. She stayed in her room, waiting to be brought a plate of food while voices echoed from behind closed doors. Throughout her pregnancy, Althea suffered from nausea and body pain. She missed her mother, Rosa, the one person in the world who truly cared. In the mansion, no outsiders were allowed. When she cried alone at night, Celine sometimes muttered, "There she goes again, I never behaved like that." Althea no longer replied. The loneliness, condescension, and silence blanketed her like a second skin. She clung to hope that once the baby was born, things would go back to normal. But the days grew longer, the nights heavier. One night, staring at the ceiling, she felt something in her chest like a weight she couldn't lift. She called Damian. "Henry," she said softly. He looked her in the eye, then away. And in that moment, Althea knew the truth. She couldn't depend on him alone. Each time he stayed silent, the distance between them grew. Letitia's voice rang, louder in her mind. Still, she held on for the life inside her, for the innocent child, for love. In the early hours of a quiet December morning, pain crashed through her body like a wave. Damian held her hand as they rushed to the hospital. His body was small, his skin pale, and his eyes shimmered with both innocence and wonder. Althea broke into sobs as they handed him to her. She was a mother now, ready to fight for her child. That very day, something shifted inside the mansion. Chatter and celebrations erupted from unexpected guests, congratulating the new parents. Damian proudly showed off his son as if he'd just been reborn. In his family's eyes, the day of Lucas's christening arrived. Amid smiles and congratulations, Damian became distant. Althea realized he was slowly erasing her from his life. Over the months, Damian's attention faded. Althea smelled alcohol on his breath, held Lucas, and heard excuses about business meetings. If Lucas cried and Althea couldn't soothe him immediately, Celine would sneer. If Althea was too tired to tidy herself, she would be insulted. "You look like a housemaid." She endured it all for Lucas, for the life she had chosen. She heard whispers, "Angela is back in town," from women who knew her story. Althea's knees weakened, her chest crushed by the weight she couldn't lift. They weren't just talking about removing her from Damian's life. They wanted Lucas too. Althea gently gathered Lucas in her arms, kissed his forehead, and wiped his tears. When Damian came upstairs that night, she met him. "We need to talk," she said firmly. Damian stared, tired and tipsy. "Damian," she whispered, "I'm your wife, the mother of your child. Just take care of the baby, will you?" He walked away. Althea sat on the edge of the bed, Lucas now fast asleep in her arms. The man she once loved, the one who had checked into her hotel with nothing but a cold stare and a famous name, had already begun erasing her from his world. The months passed, and for Althea, every day felt empty. One day felt like a week felt like a year, and with every passing moment, Damian drifted further. The hope Althea once clung to that things would be better after giving birth was slowly vanishing like sunlight behind a cloud. Surprisingly, Julian, a family friend who had always supported her, brought Althea along to a small office. Her eyes were on Damian and Lucas, who now appeared in photos and updates from the estate. Julian's network was kind and welcoming. The business world was ruthless, but Althea was ready. She started fighting not just for herself, but for her son. One day, legal papers arrived. Althea was served. She walked out of the estate's compound, feeling completely broken. But she didn't fall apart in front of Julian. He stepped gently beside her and said, "If you'll let me, I'll help." For the first time in a very long time, something softened inside Althea. She didn't say yes immediately, but she accepted the help. Through Julian's connections, she filed for custody. The court case was tense. Celine orchestrated every rejection she could. Every insult, every delay was meant to intimidate Althea. But she persevered. One afternoon, Althea was feeding Lucas lunch in a small apartment she rented. He was coloring a drawing of a house, a mother, and a child. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "Mommy needs to talk to you." But she couldn't continue. The day of the custody hearing arrived. Damian came with 2 bodyguards. Althea dropped to her knees, begged, and sobbed, "Please, I can't lose my son." But the law was on her side. The judge listened as Althea recounted every moment of care, every hardship endured, every ounce of love she had for Lucas. The gavel hit the wood. Custody of Lucas is hereby awarded to Ms. Althea Rivera. A breath she didn't realize she'd been holding escaped. Tears streamed down her face. Julian touched her shoulder gently. "You won," he whispered. She turned to see Damian still seated, eyes fixed on Lucas. He simply sat there, like a man who had lost something he couldn't name. That afternoon, Althea returned to her apartment. She opened the door, and there he was, Lucas, sitting at the little table. The moment he looked up, he screamed, "Mommy," for Althea. It was enough. She held him tightly, never letting go. For the first time in years, she felt whole again. Althea now worked full-time as the front desk supervisor at the hotel. She walked to work every day, holding Lucas's hand, taking him through the city streets. She taught him that love and patience could overcome any obstacle. One afternoon, as Althea and Lucas sat in the park, he colored while she read a book. "Hi," said a soft, familiar voice. Althea looked up. It was Julian. He smiled, holding a small box. "Thought I'd drop by," he said, chocolate chip cookies Lucas's favorite, right? Lucas's eyes lit up. Althea nodded, smiling gently, as she looked at the sky with the wind brushing softly against her cheek. She whispered a silent promise. No matter the trials, she would always protect her son. She had finally reclaimed her life and her heart was free.